What is the Constitution? Chapter 9, the Living Constitution. The United States Constitution was far from finished in 1789. The founders knew that every generation of Americans would face new challenges, changes the founders couldn't foresee. So they made sure that future citizens could control and change their government. One way is by adding more amendments. Since the Bill of Rights, 17 other amendments have been added to the Constitution. Some amendments righted the wrongs of the past. Slavery was a burning injustice left standing when the Constitution was first written. The issue led to the Civil War, which took place between 1861 and 1865. Upon the victory of the North, the 13th Amendment, written in 1865, was passed, outlawing slavery everywhere in the United States. Later, the 14th and 15th Amendment granted equal protections under the law to all citizens in 1868 and voting rights to all men in 1870. It wasn't until 1920, with the passing of the 19th Amendment, that voting rights were given to another huge group of Americans, women. There had been thousands of attempts to amend the Constitution, but it's very hard to do. 2/3 of the House and Senate have to agree on a new amendment. Then 3/4 of the states have to pass it. Here's a picture of suffragists. Women's right to vote. The fight for women's right to vote had started back in the mid-1800s. Leading the way were many activists: Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, Sojourner Truth, and Susan B. Anthony. The first Women's Rights Convention took place in Seneca Falls, New York, in 1848. There was a written declaration modeled on the Declaration of Independence. It said that all men and women are created equal. Still, by 1910, only 5 states had granted women the right to vote. During World War I, which took place between 1914 and 1918, hundreds of thousands of women joined the workforce for the first time to fill jobs left by men fighting overseas. Afterwards, the fight for women's suffrage grew stronger. Suffrage means the right to vote in an election. Activists staged huge parades, marches, and pickets. At last, in 1919, Congress passed the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing women the right to vote nationwide. It was approved in 1920. Over the course of the country's history, situations have arisen that have brought to life every point that the framers debated. 8 presidents died or assassinated in office. They included Zachary Taylor in 1850, William Henry Harrison in 1841, Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated in 1865 at the end of the Civil War, James Garfield, who was also assassinated in 1881, William McHenry, also assassinated in 1901, Warren Harding, who died in 1923, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who died in 1941, and John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated in 1963. Because of the Constitution, vice presidents were ready to step into office and keep our government running smoothly. The framers hoped the Constitution was strong enough to hold up the government in difficult times, and it was. The Constitution, that amazing 4-page document, created the longest living democratic government ever known. You can see the original signed copy of the Constitution on display at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. The ink of George Washington's signature has hardly faded, and at the top, embossed in huge, flowing script, are the words that include all Americans, we the people. Where is the original Constitution? In Washington, D.C., at the National Archive building displays the original copy of the Constitution, as well as the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. It is also a National Archive museum with many exhibits and documents about the founding of the United States. You can actually go on nationalarchives.gov or archives.gov. It's a really cool site.